Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. This is your host Sean. On this episode, we will talk about the Bears coming up just short against the Denver Broncos, the Blackhawks' woes so far on the circus trip, the Cubs sweeping the awards season, and our former MVP, DRose, afraid to play basketball. But first, as always, I would like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. Just 90 minutes from the city limits and fun for the whole family, affordable fun for the whole family. You can get bogged down by Blackhawks ticket prices, but with tickets starting at just $7, you can get tickets for the Rockford Ice Hogs. Like I said, 90 minutes from the city limits, fun for the whole family. You get to see the future stars of the Blackhawks today, including guys like Brian Bickle. So check out icehogs.com. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. I'm going to talk about the Cubs first. I want to start positive. I want to start on a good note. And I don't have much to say about the Cubs because we're in the GM meetings. There's not a ton going on. So we're going to start Cubs, move our way into the Bears, then onto the Blackhawks, and then finish it up with a little Chicago Bulls. So if you are only a fan of one of these things, you can fast forward to that moment. I'm going to start with this. If you are new to this show, we are By the Fans for the Fans show. By the fans for the fans. If you listen to a lot of sports radio, they hate their listeners. They absolutely hate them. They don't like them at all in the least one bit. So what's the point? I love you guys. Even people that disagree with me. As long as you have a point that you fully agree with, or if it's criticism of the show, as long as you have some sort of constructive criticism, like, I don't like the way you do this. Maybe if you did this, it would be better. Or something along those lines. Or if you have any sort of opinion on any of our beloved Chicago sports teams, hit me up. I will talk about it on the air. Hell, if you want to come on the air, you are more than welcome to come on the air. I've invited a couple people that frequently contact me, and they've said no thanks because they'd rather listen, which is perfectly fine too. But if you would like to have your question answered in the air, or if you would like to be on the show, hit us up on... You could do it on Twitter at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Any of those ways, I will get your question or your comment. But like I said, we love our listeners and we want you to be a part. I'm just the guy that happens to have the microphone and the internet connection, so I am doing the show. So Cubbies. Going into the Big Four awards, the Rookie of the Year, the Cy Young, the MVP, Manager of the Year, the Cubs had players in 3 of those 4 categories, one being no MVP. And that was just kind of a gimme anyways. Everybody knows that Bryce Harper was going to win the National League MVP. That was pretty much a given for months and months and months now. There was nobody that was going to catch him. But the realistic chance was the Rookie of the Year. Chris Bryant was nominated, and Manager of the Year, and you had Joe Madden, and then Cy Young, of course, you have Jake Arrieta. And the Cy Young, it sucked that one was the third of the Cubs' opportunities to go, because that was the nerve-wracking one. I felt very confident that Chris Bryant was going to win the Rookie of the Year, and he ended up winning with absolutely just, I think he swept it. I think he had all 30 first-place votes. And rightfully so, is he was the most dominant rookie in the National League, in all of baseball. So it was fantastic, the Cubs to get the Rookie of the Year. I believe it was their first one since Jerome Walton, if I'm not mistaken, who had a horrible career after that first year. Old Jerome Walton. And trivia is the Cubs were also second place in the year Jerome Walton won. I believe that was 1989. Jerome Walton was first, and fellow Cub player Dwight Smith was second. Dwight Smith had an equally unremarkable career after that point. So, Jerome Walton and Dwight Smith, remember those names. They're perfectly forgettable. But Chris Bryant has the makings of being just an incredible baseball player, and I mean he was so dominant this year. The only thing that he really had room to improve on was the strikeout number. And whenever you're coming up into a new league, new pitching, that's the one thing that you're going to have is you're going to have more strikeouts. That's pretty typical. I mean, look at Baez last year and the number of strikeouts he had, and then how he shored that up a lot more this year. Chris Bryant's going to work hard in the offseason, and I look for those numbers to go down and probably his power numbers to go up, which is even more scary. Joe Madden was a guy that I felt was very deserving of it, but there was several guys that were deserving of it. But it was nice to have him win it, and he gave shout outs to the other managers that were nominated. That was nice to see. He's so cerebral about everything and gracious, so it was good to see him win that. And then finally, Jake Arrieta ended up with the National League Cy Young Award, and that was one that, honestly, any of the three finalists could have won, and nobody should have been upset. Nobody should have been upset about Arrieta winning. Nobody should have been upset about Greinke winning. Nobody should have been upset about Kershaw winning. All three were just absolutely dominating, and it was unreal that you had 3 seasons like that. You had Greinke just unhittable all year. You had Arrieta with the second half that was just absolutely historic, and then Kershaw with his standard regular season just dominance. And I think that cost him a lot of votes because he didn't do anything out of the ordinary for him. Another pitcher that would have been absolutely astounding, but for Kershaw, that's just Kershaw. Well, regular season Kershaw. So it was nice to see. You got, the Cubs, Greinke and Arrieta both have struggled in the postseason, so it was nice that these votes came in to before the playoffs started. But it was really nice to see the Cubs get those 3 awards. Hopefully they can parlay that into next season, being able to get a little further in the playoffs. I mean, I know they made it to the National League Championship Series, but they just got spanked by the Mets. The Mets were a better team, better pitching overall, and more timely hitting. So there's the Cubs, good things for the 2016 season. Now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about today's Bears game. Going into it, we talked a lot about it last week, and there was, at that point, I don't think Peyton Manning had been announced out, and there was a good chance of him not being in. And I honestly, today, Manning would have been the much better option to be in there. He's not mobile. He's going to stand in the pocket, and the Bears' pressure, I think, would have disrupted him a lot more. And he's been throwing a lot more lame ducks. Instead, you have a really motivated Blake Rottweiler. I can't pronounce his name. It's a Brock Osweiler. Brock Osweiler. He's a rookie, or not a rookie. He's his first start. He's first start coming in. His whole family's in. He's been sitting idly by, waiting for a chance to play, and he took advantage of this spot. And it's kind of a trap game for the Bears because Think about a couple years ago when the Bears played the 49ers and Alex Smith was injured and couldn't play, and they had first start rookie Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick came out and just smoked the Bears. And I was really worried that Brock Osweiler would, not that he was going to run like that, but he was going to be able to pick the Bears apart, and started off similar to last week's game this week, where you have the Bears just completely malfunction in the first drive. And this week it ended up being the difference in the game. The Bears couldn't get sustained pressure. They weren't able. They got several sacks, but none were in a timely fashion. The defense gave up touchdowns on 2 drives that they really shouldn't have, and didn't. They gave up a big third down play, 3rd and 12, that could have changed field position and really changed the way the Bears' momentum was, and they gave up a 13-yard run on a 3rd and 12. You can't do that. On offense, the offensive line, they were playing against the number 1 defense in the NFL, and the Bears, you've got your center coming back after a neck injury. You still have problems at your right guard spot. You're still with your backup left tackle, and the Bears played okay. They just couldn't establish the run, and you're minus Matt Forte again, and you're minus Alshon Jeffrey and Eddie Royal. And when you're down, when your starting wide receivers are Josh Bellamy and Marquise Wilson, of course you're not going to be able to scare the number 1 defense into anything. And the Bears did go deep and were able to take advantage of some big plays, but for all intents and purposes, is moving the ball down the field. They had difficulty consistently because they couldn't run the ball as well because the Broncos were stacking the box, daring them to beat them with the pass, and then they played such tight man coverage that there was nobody really open. You had some dump offs that were okay. You had some deep passes because it was man coverage, those second moves, those double moves really got the wide receiver open, and it was just a day late and a dollar short. So let's break it down by units and talk about that, and then we'll go to a segment we'll call the good, the bad, and the meh. So defensive line. This was as a unit, nothing spectacular. They didn't get a lot of pressure. They gave up way too many rushing yards, and the Broncos' running game was nothing to write home about. And you have the Bears not being able to stop them. And in fact, the Broncos averaged 5 yards a carry in this game. You can't have that and win the game. You can't allow running dominance like that, especially running dominance and having the number 1 defense in the NFL, and be able to win a game like that. So the defensive line, nothing spectacular. Linebacking core, it was again nothing spectacular. You had some good plays by Shea McClellin, and I'm really critical of Shea McClellin, but he actually had some good plays today. Christian Jones had some misses, some missed coverages as well. It's again, the linebacking core, they're playing as well as you can expect those guys to speed at that position. Fuller, Porter, they just they played well. I thought they played really well, other than that long Demaryius Thomas pass, but we'll get to that in a second. And then you have the safeties. Adrian Amos, I thought, played a great game, but Antrell Roll was out, and instead Chris Prasinski played in his place. And there's a reason why he's been one of the worst tacklers in the NFL over the last few years, and he showed that in that Demaryius Thomas long touchdown pass. He just whiffed and gave up that long run, and that was all on him because Christian Jones was coming up the backside, and he not only missed the tackle, but he forced Jones to have to hurdle him, which slowed him down and couldn't catch Demaryius Thomas. And that safety spot is just a weak link in this Bears team. It's been a weak link all season, even when Antrell Roll is in, because he is nothing to write home about. At best, he's nothing to write home about. At worst, he's disinterested. And and old and fat. There, I said it. That's a position that if you're the Bears organization, you've got to figure out a way to upgrade. Preferably mid-season now, if you plan to do anything, but definitely in the offseason, because you cannot win with Antrell Rolle as your starting safety opposite Adrian Amos. And Adrian Amos has played well beyond that 5th-round draft pick, whatever he was, the 5th or 6th. He's been pretty darn good. Defensive play calling, I thought it was pretty okay. It was they marched on the field a little bit, but it was missed plays and not bad coaching that caused that. It was players not making the plays, players not being where they're supposed to be, players not making tackles. That was the big reason. Switching gears to the offense, I want to start first with the offensive game planning. The offensive game planning I thought was okay to start. They're playing against the number 1 defense. They have their top 2 wide receivers out, top 3 if you consider Kevin White, and you've got to be able to establish ground dominance, especially against an elite defense, and that's what you have to do. And the Bears tried to do that, and they just couldn't establish the ground game. And they finally, when they brought in Kadeem Carey, they were able to, with a little more power running, get some decent yards, but then he goes out with a concussion, and you're left with Jeremy Langford. And I love Jeremy Langford, and this was not a knock on him. It was just there was nothing there. And Kadeem Carey, what he did was he just carried a couple guys for a few more yards. But with Jeremy Langford is like Forte. He's a big guy, and he's a powerful back, but he's more finesse, and he just wasn't able to. The offensive line wasn't able to establish the dominance to give him holes to get through, and that's kudos to the Broncos system and scheme and their players and then how they played today. They won their individual matchups against the Bears, but that was the game plan they had to go with. And it would have been nice if the Bears had opened it up a little more and tried to work those tight ends like they did. And granted, they put tight coverage on Martellus Bennett, and it ended up a couple of key pass interferences that worked in the Bears' advantage. But if I was the Bears, I would have been a little more aggressive in the second half, knowing that you struggled to put points on the board, and knowing that team is that you're playing in the Broncos. They just got a tough defense, and you're not going to be able to establish a ground game and consistently. So you got to be able to keep them off balance and keep working them that way. That's my one criticism there. Moving on to the Bears' offensive line, pass protection was okay. The infamous end of the game where Von Miller finally got in and hit Jay Cutler's arm and caused an interception, and you can't blame Jay for that one. The other interception, we'll get to that in a second, yes, but this one, it's the end of the game. He's got to make something happen. They don't have time to punt. He's got to make something happen. He's trying to wait it out as long as possible, and an exceptional linebacker, outside linebacker, comes in and tips him on the arm while he's in the middle of the throw. What can you do? You could say, oh, he has to have a better internal clock. It's a whole different ballgame when there's 2 minutes left and you're down a score. You gotta be able to do that. But back to the offensive line. Pass protection I thought was pretty good. Run blocking was not there. They couldn't open up the holes. They couldn't do anything consistently to establish the ground game for Jeremy Langford and Kadeem Carey. But again, there's still patchwork offensive line, and they did keep Cutler clean for the most part. Running backs, I give them a mag grade because, again, they weren't able to do anything spectacular. I don't think. I mean, Matt Forte has got to be, and his agent have to be super excited about this, the way this turned out. But I don't think Matt Forte would have done anything better either. He's another guy. He's very much like Jeremy Langford, and if Jeremy Langford's not getting there, then I don't think Matt Forte is getting there. And I read some comments on Twitter that they were expecting the way the Bears were rushing up the gut, that they were going to use that to parlay into a sweep of some sort, and it never came. And I think that was part of the game plan, is because the Denver defense is a lot faster than the Bears, and then they knew that any kind of sweep play like that is probably going to get blown up by the speed of the Denver Broncos defense, and they needed plays that were going to be a little quicker developing. Quarterback, I thought Jay played well, except for the one pass. He had the interception that really, really hurt the Bears at the end. But that was a bad throw on his part. Is he threw where there was a guy underneath ready to undercut him, and that linebacker was totally baiting him into that throw, and Jay Cutler went for it. And partly it happened because Jay locked in on a receiver. Partly it happened, the guy baited him. Partly it happened because you don't have your top 2 wide receivers in, and the other team knows it, and they're willing to take chances on things like that because they know that Bellamy and Mariani and Marquise Wilson aren't going to beat them, one-on-one. It's not going to happen. And then wide receivers is Bellamy and Marquise Wilson played as well as you can expect for guys of that caliber. I mean, they should be, numbers 3 and 4 on your team, or 4s and 5s. They shouldn't be 1s and 2s on a winning team, and that's what they got. Injuries caused them to step up in there, is when you lost your number 1, your number 2, and your number 3 wide receivers, and Kevin White, Alshon Jeffrey, and Eddie Royal. That's what happens. That's the NFL. You have to step up, and you got to step up and perform. And I thought they did reasonably well. It just comes down to you got to be able to play better. Let's go with the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, I thought the Bears cornerbacks played particularly well this week. There were a lot of passes defended, tight coverage, no real huge blown assignments. I thought they played well, but that bodes well. Is you're getting confidence in guys, they're buying into the system, they're recognizing that what their job is and how to do it. I thought they played well. Again, I thought Cutler played well, other than the one pass. We'll throw him into the good category. I thought the Bears' 2 tackles played pretty well. You have, the number one defense in the NFL, and you really contain them on their outside linebackers with your 2 tackles. I thought they played particularly well. The bad of it was the play of the strong safety. Antrell Roll has been bad. Chris Prasinski is bad. Harold Jones-Cordy, bad. And then what you have next is Sherrod Martin and Sherrick McManus behind them. It's a bad position. Other than Adrian Amos, you really have nothing at that safety position. We started the season with a ton of safeties that we thought we'd be able to pluck 2 out that could play, and it just didn't work out that way. Ryan Mundy gets injured. Brock Vereen can't play at all, so he gets cut. It's just been a rolling, cycling round of just crappery. What else? In the bad is the outside linebacking play. Sam Acho, he's been Jekyll and Hyde. One game he has a good game. This game was not a good game. He blown coverage, couldn't get any pass rush. You have the other outside linebackers position. We've got Willie Young and Pernell McPhee. They played okay, but you've got to be able to develop more pass rush from that outside linebacker position. That's the whole purpose. Is you want to set that lineup so you're getting advantages in the matchups and be able to get a hat on that quarterback and get him pressure and force him to do things, not leave your cornerbacks on an island. And you're not getting that. Bad is Bears blitz pickup. The offensive line, I thought, played pretty well, but on a couple of blitzes that they had runners coming in free to get Jay Cutler. And you can't have that. That's not something that you can have as the Chicago Bears, because giving up sacks and developing long third downs is something that's not a recipe for winning. There's one last thing I want to put in the bad, and that is, and I know this is sort of going back on what I've said before. I said that I really liked the game plan that the Bears had on offense. It started off rough. It just didn't go as planned. But 3 play calls I want to put in the bad. The first, 2 of them were plays that didn't work. One was a play that worked, but I still want to throw it in the bad. The first is, in the first offensive series, the Bears didn't go for it on the 4th and 1 foot. I think that really set the tone. You're going against the number 1 defense. You've got, even though it's pretty banged up, you've got a pretty good offensive line, and you've got a quarterback that's able to run if need be. I think you should have gone for it. I think the odds of you getting it are pretty high. I think that really sets the tone for going forward. You trust in your defense if you can't. It really sets the tone for what you're going to do on offense. The second one is the touchdown play when you ran it in. I felt that you were really struggling on running the ball, and I thought throwing something on the flat and underneath, you were able to move things or roll the quarterback out of the pocket and let Jay Cutler run it in. I felt those were much better options than giving it to a rookie running back with the workload all put on him to run against the number 1 defense in the NFL. And the third one is the 2-point conversion. Is you successfully did run it, but then you move the ball back a little bit to start that second down or that 2-point conversion. And honestly, you should have done an underneath pass and let him get ahead of steam to try to run it in, or let Jay Cutler try to run it in himself, or thrown it to Martellus Bennett and hoped for a jump ball, or let him bully his way in, or hope for a pass interference. Whatever the case may be, I really didn't think the way you've been running the ball that whole day that you were going to be able to get it, and that was basically the game right there. I mean, the play before, when you got the touchdown, at least you had another play at your disposal, but this was it. You get the one-and-done shot to tie the game. It's either you tie the game or you lose, and that's it. And I think for that position, you have to put yourself in the position to best to get in the end zone. Aaron Rodgers would have thrown it. Peyton Manning would have thrown it. Tom Brady would have thrown it. And that's the difference with the Bears, is they didn't throw it. And you have to throw it in there. Unless you have Adrian Peterson or Le'Veon Bell or somebody, you throw the ball and you throw it into the end zone. It's because then if you catch it, it's in. If you run the ball, there's a lot more issue. And I feel like, as good as Jeremy Langford's been, is had he done a jump cut and gone right, he could have walked into the end zone. If you watch, he just made the wrong cut. If you done a jump cut, gone out, he walks right into the end zone, ties the game, goes into overtime. But it should never have gotten to that point. And then that's it for the bad. And then we'll switch over to the meh. The meh is the Bears' defensive line. It's Will Sutton, Jarvis Jenkins, Eddie Goldman. Did you hear any of their names? They didn't. I mean, you heard Bruce Gaston that one time, Mitch Unrain when he was playing fullback, but you're not hearing their names. They're not doing anything. They're not coming in, stopping the run. They're not going in there and developing any sort of pass rush. You've got to be better about that. And that's just if you're going to win the game. And then the last of my meh is finally the Bears decided to get rid of Mark Mariani as their kickoff returner, and they put recently promoted special teamer, practice squatter Deontay Thompson in. And granted, he didn't do anything spectacular, but when he did run the ball, he looked like a legitimate NFL kick returner, whereas Mark Mariani looks like he's going 100 miles an hour on his feet but not getting anywhere, is Deontay Thompson looks like he can actually take one to the house. He only brought it to the 25 or so, but he looked good doing it. So I'm going to call it mad because the results weren't there, but I think this is going to be a much better move long term than, or at least for the season length, than Mariani. A couple more things I want to talk about this game is the Bears' plan has been to pick up yards on first down and second down and get productive yards in those. So when you have third down, you're not walking into a third and super long. You're walking into a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2, even a 3rd and 1. Those are manageable third downs, and those are third downs, especially when you get 3rd and 3 or less, is that you keep the defense off balance because you don't know if they're going to run, if they're going to pass, what they're going to do. But in today's game, what you had was the Bears getting in themselves into 3rd and longs, and that's not a recipe for winning. Not a recipe at all. I keep saying the recipe for winning, but it's really true. You've got to be able to stop the run. You've got to be able to establish the run. You've got to get into manageable third downs, and you have to contain big plays. You just have to do that. So looking forward is we got a short week this week, so we're going to be able to really process the Bears game for this show purposes, is because the Bears are going to be playing a short week on Thanksgiving Day against the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. And this will be the second time they played them this season. This will be their second and done against Green Bay. And first game of the season was against Green Bay, and the Bears played admirably against a hungry and fired up, fully loaded Green Bay Packers team. And what you have now is a complete 180 from that team. This isn't the same Green Bay Packers that kicked the crap out of us the last couple seasons, or that we played the first week of the season. This is a team that's really struggling on offense, and they're even struggling on defense. I mean, granted, they're playing a little better today against the Minnesota Vikings, but this is a team that's really struggling on offense, and they lost on their home field to the Detroit Lions. And I know Detroit beat us, but Detroit is not a good team. They're just not a very good team. And the Packers just don't look like the Packers, especially without Jordy Nelson. So this is a game the Bears really could win. And I'm not saying they will. I said that, about this game too. Last week I said that about the Denver game. But the Bears just really came out flat-footed. And you know what? I just thought about something. I want to commend the Bears. Is not a single penalty in today's game. That's great. That should have been one of the greats. I totally forgot about that. There was not a single penalty on the Bears. And you're going to need that going forward. You're going to minimize those penalties. But back to Green Bay. Next week we've got a Green Bay team that is they're currently, depending today's outcome, they're 6-3. They could be 6-4 by the time you listen to the show. And if they're 6-4, you better capitalize on them reeling. You better capitalize, because you cannot afford to let them get in the groove and let them feel comfortable, because they will smoke you. They're still a team that can come out and just pick you apart. The Bears need to start this game with the momentum and punch them right in the mouth. Or that first play is pull a Packer on them, draw them offside, and go for a deep bomb. And something like that is you've got to come out and just really take it to them in their house on Thanksgiving Day in a national audience and score a touchdown and be up 7-0 on the Green Bay Packers. You just have to. There's this aura, this mystique about them, and they continually beat you. I mean, granted, they're a better team, but they continually beat you. You need to be able to come out and punch them in the mouth and make them play from behind, make them a one-dimensional team, and make them worry about what it is they're doing wrong and start having dissension on the team. I mean, a couple weeks ago, you had Julius Peppers and Clinton Dix fighting on the sideline. That's what you need to have them do, is they fall behind. Suddenly they start second-guessing themselves. Suddenly they start bickering amongst themselves, and that's what you do. And if a team is on a 4-game losing streak, you've got to capitalize on that. And I don't care if it's them shooting themselves in the foot, as the Bears have to capitalize. You've got a weakened wide receiver core. You've got to make sure you're taking away their number one option and forcing them into making bad throws. You've got to be able to get pass rush on Aaron Rodgers, and you've got to be able to stop the run. And on offense, you can't turn the ball over. If you're able to get some pressure on Aaron Rodgers and you double team their number one option and you don't let Eddie Lacy get going, and as a Bear, you don't turn the ball over with interceptions, you're going to win this game in a national audience, and it's going to be on Thanksgiving Day, and that'll be something to give thanks for. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to predict the Bears win that one 21-17. 21-17, the Bears win. Let's quickly move on to the Blackhawks. It's not too much to say. They started their circus trip. It's been rough. Since Joel Quenneville's been there, they've never finished under 500 on the circus trip. And in the last 2 years, they actually won almost every single point they possibly could in that circus trip. And so far, they've started off a little cold with losses to Calgary, losses to Vancouver, and this team is just out of sorts. Talent-wise, this team has been phenomenal, but what the recipe for this team's sustained success has been is a top line that performs and rolling 4 lines deep. And right now, you're not getting production from most of your lines. If you're the Blackhawks, you're realistically looking at one performing line, one line that's playing better than they were, and then 2 lines that aren't giving you anything. That top line has been, you have Taves and Hossa on there, but you can't find that third person who's consistently going to be up there. Last night was Andrew Shaw, and you got production from Jonathan Taves, but you're not really getting a ton from that first line, and that's a line that should be lethal. The second line has been the productive one, and partly because Patrick Kane is playing on fire. Part of it is because you found that second line center that knows how to skate with Patrick Kane. And the third is you add a really talented Artemi Panarin. So that third line of Panarin, Anisimov, and Kane, that's your lights out line, and that's just been a historically good line playing there. Your third and fourth lines, again, it's shuffling along players, trying to find a combination that works. And if you know Joel Quenneville is, if he finds a line and they win, he sticks with it. If they lose, he's going to shuffle them around. Last night you had third line center as Marcus Kruger with his wings being Desjardins and Mashinter, and the fourth line was Caro as your center, and then Garbett and Dano as your wingers. And they're just not doing anything. They're not able to score, and part of that is you've had some injuries. You've got Tavo who's hurt. You just had Dano who came back from an injury. You've got guys that are injured. You've got a big shuffle from last year. You're trying to figure out who pairings are. You're trying to figure out who the guys on your roster should be. You've got Desjardins who's not playing like the guy that you brought over last year, who was awesome and an absolute integral part of why they were and where they were. Looking at plus minus this year as a whole for the year, and Andrew Desjardins a -9. You look through their season statistics last year, and you had hardly anybody that was in a minus if you were the Blackhawks. And right now, they've only got a handful of guys who are in the positive. Kane is Kane because he's got 32 points already in 21 games. He's just ridiculous. He's almost at a 2-point-a-game player. Gustafsson's a +5, Anisimov's a 4, Taves is a 3, Tavo's a 3, Panarin's a 2, Seabrook, Shaw, and are a +1. Everybody else is at a 0 or a minus, with Desjardins being a -9, Kruger being a -5. Even Duncan Keith is at an even. Last night he was a -2, and it was part of last night was you had Sedin's playing out of their ass and playing lights out, and shots that it took a lot of hockey luck going in, but really you have Blackhawks Blackhawks aren't able to get 4 consistent lines going, and they're not able to put, three defensive pairings out that are consistently playing well. You've had this this first pairing of Keith and Hjalmarsson, and you would think that'd be a great line, but they just don't have the chemistry. You're not seeing that well. TVR with Seabrook, and then Trevor Daley with Michael Roosevelt, and that's just been ugly. You're really missing Johnny Oduya on this roster. That was a godsend for you. If you're the Blackhawks, you're in a rough stretch of your schedule. If you're thinking about the way you're playing and being on the road for 2 weeks, that's not the place you want to be when you're playing bad. I mean, the last couple of seasons, the team really turned it around at this point and came back with winning 14 of 16 points or 10 of 12 or whatever it was. They won almost every single one of those points, and you came back home ready to play with a padded record. And right now, if you're the Blackhawks, that's not what you're getting. You're not seeing that consistency, and you're already starting off this road trip poorly to get your record back in sorts. This is looking at I'm pulling up the record right now, the standings, and if the playoffs were to start today, is the Blackhawks would be in that second wild card spot, just barely by 2 points ahead of Winnipeg. But they've really got to turn it around. If they're going to keep playing like this on this road trip, it's going to get really ugly really fast. They're off tonight, and they're off Monday and Tuesday. They don't play again until Wednesday when they play the Sharks. But then they get the Sharks, the Ducks, the Kings, and then they don't come back home until December. So it's those are tough games right there. And if you're the Blackhawks, you've got to win at least 2 of those. You can't come back with just an absolutely abysmal circus trip record. And then as soon as you get back home, you play the Minnesota Wild, who's historically tough against you, and then you go right back on the road again. This is something that's, there's no magic formula for this. This is just guys having to go out and work, guys having to go in there and put their big boy pants on, sharper passes, finding that chemistry, and being able to play with it. And if you're the goalies, you need to be able to play better. Neither one of the goalies, Darling or Crawford, are playing like they should, and they're giving up way too many easy goals, and they're going to have to put their big boy pants on too. This is a team game, the ultimate team game. You win and lose as a team, and the Blackhawks right now are really struggling to get points and keep points off the board. And that's a product of having to go in there and really soul search and figure out who you are and start playing as a team and playing tougher. And the Blackhawks have always been a defensive team that have used that defense to put offense, and they haven't had the team defense that they've had the last several years, and it's really showing on the way that they play as an offense. They've always, as a set offense, as you can tell by their power play numbers, has never been exceptional the last few years. And when they're having to set up and try to score that way without being a tough defensive team and converting by putting in odd man rushes and being able to set up through good defense, you're just not getting what you should. And so here's to a big victory against the Sharks coming up on this coming Wednesday. So let's hear for the Hawks. And the last thing I want to talk about is, I don't really want to talk full Chicago Bulls, because I have not caught up on games and have DVR'd some. But Derrick Rose this year has just really, really soured any last person who is a Derrick Rose fan to being a not Derrick Rose fan. I mean, from the comments about a new contract to just the off the wall things he says, and public disagreements about what his injury is, where the coaching and trainers and ownership and general manager are saying that he's got double vision, and then he's saying he's not, and then he comes out and saying that he's worried about injuries and that it's getting into his head. So you've got a guy who's physically beat up, trying to play, and he can't do it, and he's scared to do it. He can't physically do it, and that's just a recipe for disaster. It's complete crap, and who are his people that are feeding this line that he's going to get a max contract when his contract is done in 2 years? Who are his people that's saying that? Because nobody in their right mind is going to give DRose a max contract. He's not going to get it. His best bet is to go out there and just play with 100% intensity like he did that year he won the MVP, and maybe he'll get something close to that. But the way he's playing now and taking nights off and being scared to play and not being the driving force of this team, there's nobody that's going to pay him. And the Bulls will be happy to get rid of him at that point. It's been Reggie Rose that's been the crap of that family that's just coming out and spewing stupid stuff. But now Derek took the reins and the microphone and whatever else, and he's just out there yapping away, and it's just really turned ugly, and it's unfortunate, as we really thought we had a diamond come in here, and what we really had was just a lump of coal, and that's unfortunate. And this Bulls team is not going to win with DRose at the helm, and unfortunately that's what they got, and they're locked with him. And I mean, it's sad to say, but this Bulls team is going to have to make a trade if they expect to do anything, and hopefully they can get DRose and move him, because he's not in it to win it. He's not being a team player, and I don't care how much Joakim Noah defends him. Send him as a package. This team is I don't care what Joakim Noah says. DRose is not a team player, and he's not willing to win. And I forgot who said it, but somebody said that 27-year-old DRose looks like his last year Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, with his knee braces and his stupid, plastic mask that he's wearing on his face and limping between plays. He just looks like a beat-up old man. I'm almost 40 years old, and I look better out there than Derek on a lot of times. At least I'm not out there gimping around. It's a shame what it's become, and it's a shame the friction between the team and the ownership, and it's a shame that you have the fans turn on their former number one prospect, a hometown kid who won MVP. But you know what? I don't blame anybody else. I blame Derek and Derek's camp. They brought this all on themselves. Injuries happen, but the attitude you have surrounding it, and how you come back from it, and how you play after it, and how you respond when you are playing, is really determines it. And Derek hasn't walked the walk, and Derek is done the wrong talking too. And this is just a shame that what it's become. I don't really have much else to say. I know this is probably a short episode. I wanted to have a guest on, but we had a conflict of schedule last minute, so that was that. But thank you guys so much for listening, and make sure you check us out at swerskisports.com, Twitter at swerskisports, and facebook.com/swerskisports. And thank you guys so much for listening. Check us out on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, however you listen. Subscribe. And thank you guys. Until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on the plains.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down, I wanna...